Now, the second post-credit scene brings things full circle from the opening of the first Guardians movie. I need to talk about the film's ending in order to give context to this, as it builds off the back of the final few scenes, which won't make sense if I don't ramble on for 3 minutes about what happens with Quill. Now, at the end, we see Star-Lord going back to his grandfather's home, who he's not seen since he was abducted all those years ago. His grandfather's new wife opens the door, which initially makes him believe that he's at the wrong place, but upon asking if Mr. Quill's about, she then says yes. Going into the backyard, he sees his grandfather, and from this point, the pair hug it out. It's kinda similar to Steve meeting back up with Peggy at the end of Endgame. Not like that, but this is the home and life that he should have had. However, he was called on to do greater things. Now, though Quill returned to Earth for the events of Endgame, he ended up leaving rather than going home. In a lot of our videos on these films, I've often taken this as being because of how traumatic it was to be back on Earth where his mother died. This gets confirmed in the film when Gamora suggests he goes back because, in the end, he doesn't really have a home with her. If you've ever lost someone through a shocking circumstance, then you'll know how difficult it is to pass through the place where they died, and it makes sense that he'd want to get out of there as quickly as he could. Now though, he's ready to return home and be back with the family that loved and missed him. They likely had no idea what happened to him all those years ago, and he's ready to take some time to be with them and possibly restart his life on Earth. Unfortunately, due to this movie's Gamora going off, he likely won't end up with her. There is potential down the line, which we'll talk more on in just a bit, but I do think that the pair are destined not to be together. The Gamora he loved, he ended up losing in Infinity War, and no matter how much he tries to force things, the one who came over just isn't her. Rather than relying on that variant to make him whole though, he's now found inner peace and realised that he has a home back on Earth where he'll be loved and accepted. This is kinda how I take the ending, and rather than trying to make those things that don't work, he's going somewhere where the pieces all fit together naturally. Anyway, the second post-credit scene opens on Peter and his grandpa eating cereal, and we get a nice little reference to the holiday special. Here we can catch his granddad reading a newspaper with a headline talking about how Kevin Bacon was abducted by aliens. You also get the idea that Peter's trying to avoid doing his chores like mowing the lawn, but if you've seen how he f***ed up the plan to remove Thanos' gauntlet, mate, I wouldn't even let him water the plants. Never forget your f***. Now, from here we fade out, and we get the text on screen saying the legendary Star-Lord will return. So big question leaving the theatre is probably over this line of text. Pratt of course has the potential to follow Gunn to DC, and there are a lot of things up in the air at the moment. Now the first way to take it is at face value with this, meaning that Peter Quill will be called back into the fight and that we'll follow his adventures down the line. Potentially he could end up running into Gamora in a couple of years and the pair may fall in love. The legendary Star-Lord is also a term used in Peter Quill's solo comic book series, with it likely being a nod to him coming back under that name. If Pratt was coming back, then I think they'd likely save it for a big story like Secret Wars, and if you've read the comic then you'll know the Earth gets transformed into Battleworld, which is a mesh of all realities. It heavily pulls in the 616, which Peter is of course a member of, and thus it makes sense that he could be brought across with this. Now, tying in the Secret Wars means that they could also do something else. Unlike the other Marvel movies, the text appears at the end on a white background instead of a black one. This could show that we might have a similar Star-Lord to what's come before, though there could be something different about him. Potentially the multiverse being open means that we could get another Star-Lord, and they may do a variant for that film, and potentially even recast the character going forward in the MCU. Zoe Saldana has been very open about hoping Gamora is recast, and she's recently been giving interviews talking about this directly. From what I've been told about the plans of Secret Wars, we're heading for a sort of soft reboot that brings in multiple aspects of the expanded Marvel Universe and unites them into one reality. There's also going to be some new versions of old characters, so they can keep things the same without the actors aging out of roles.